The film starts with a boy named Shota and a man, Osamu, who enter a store with the intention of shoplifting while pretending that they're buying groceries. With teamwork, they steal the desired item successfully and buy some croquet on their way home. While walking, they see a girl on the road, and Osamu feels bad for her because it's cold outside, so he brings her home. At the dinner table, the girl tells them that her name is Yuri. Their family, including Osamu's wife, a grandma, and a girl named Aki, discuss what to do with the girl, and Osamu's wife, Nobuyo, suggests they drop the girl off at her house. Meanwhile, Grandma notices that Yuri has a lot of scars on her body. Eventually, Osamu and Nobuyo take the girl back to her home. After getting there, they're horrified to hear people fighting and screaming inside the house. This is when they decide to bring Yuri back home with them. The next morning, Osamu leaves home for work. Nobuyo also leaves as she works in a factory where she irons clothes to earn money. Meanwhile, Osamu works as a laborer on a construction site. At home, the grandma patches up Yuri's scars. Just then, a government official visits them, so the old lady tells Shota to hide Yuri from the guy. Shota takes her to a store so he can steal some more things. There, he asks Yuri whether her mother gave her those scars, but she replies that her mother is actually nice to her. At night, the whole family talks about keeping Yuri at home while having dinner. Yuri also joins them as it's her favorite dish. Meanwhile, Shota hears Osamu's voice and opens the door. He sees that a person is carrying Osamu home because he's injured. That guy tells the family that Osamu has been paid workers' compensation since he is unable to work. The next day, Shota and Yuri go to the market and steal some edible things. Meanwhile, the grandma visits the bank with Aki for her pension. After that, they go to a restaurant to have lunch and talk about Aki's work, as she is a prostitute. At home, Osamu asks Nobuyo if she's getting late, and she tells him that she has to go in the afternoon as the workers are sharing work. Meanwhile, the grandma enters the home and hands over Osamu something to eat. Aki goes to work and Grandma goes to the arcade to play games. On the same day, Yuri and Shota visit a store with Osamu, who keeps the shopkeeper busy while the kids steal some fishing rods and run away. On the way back home, Osamu tells Yuri about some tricks, for which Shota gets jealous, saying that they don't need Yuri in their work. Osamu, on the other hand, tells him to share his work with Yuri because she's now his sister, but Shota refuses to accept that. Yuri feels bad, but Osamu consoles her, saying that Shota will be okay. At night, they all talk about fishing rods and their worth, and Nobuyo asks Aki to contribute to house expenditures, but the grandma won't let her. Nobuyo blames Grandma for spoiling her, which makes Aki mad. Then, the grandma tells them about her life insurance while making a dress for Yuri. During this time, Yuri sits alone, feeling bad for Shota. Nobuyo feels her pain of being thrown away by her mother and talks to Osamu about this. After some time, Osamu finds Shota and talks to him about Yuri, after which he finally agrees to live with her. Then, Shota and Osamu spend some time discussing fish stories. The next morning, Nobuyo and Osamu talk about their lawn, while Nobuyo is stretching clothes on the wire after doing some laundry. This is when Shota notices the news about Yuri, so he calls Osamu and Nobuyo. The news is about the missing girl, whose name is Juri instead of Yuri. Osamu panics after seeing this and asks Yuri to go back home by herself. But Nobuyo stops him because Yuri doesn't want to go. So they change her look by cutting her hair and changing her name to Lin. Lin sees her new look and likes it as well as her name. Later on, Both of the kids, along with Grandma and Nobuyo, go shopping. On the way to the market, Shota asks Lin whether she likes her new family, to which she says yes. Nobuyo and Grandma also talk about Lin choosing them instead of her parents and home. At home, Osamu sees people playing football and tries to play it by filling some air in a plastic bag. Meanwhile, Aki asks him about his relationship with Nobuyo. She believes that they are connected by money, but Osamu denies it. Back in the market, Nobuyo and Grandma choose clothes for Lin, but she refuses to take them, fearing that Nobuyo might hit her later on. Nobuyo consoles the little girl after hearing this. After coming back home, she gives Lin a bath and teaches her a poem for counting. They also talk about their scars, as they both have the same burn scar. Then, Nobuyo burns Lin's old dress and cuddles with her. A few days later, Shota and Lin go to collect some bugs, and then they visit a shop. There, Shota asks Lin to steal stuff while giving her cover, but the shopkeeper somehow knows it and stops him from teaching such things to his sister. On the other hand, Nobuyo's boss tells her that he has to fire one employee because he cannot pay both, so they have to decide who's staying. Nobuyo tries to ask the woman to leave the job, but she tells Nobuyo that she'll stay quiet about Lin if she gets to keep her job. So Nobuyo is pretty much forced to leave the job. Meanwhile, Grandma visits Aki's parents. She spends some time there and then comes back home with some money from them. On the other hand, Aki talks to her regular client about her family and consoles him as he gets emotional over something. At home, while eating cold noodles, Nobuyo tells Osamu that she's been fired from her job. At the same time, it starts raining, and everyone comes home one by one. Osamu plays with kids by showing them tricks, and Nobuyo prepares corn for everyone. After coming back home, Aki talks to Grandma and Nobuyo about that boy. While playing with Osamu, Shota tells him about the shopkeeper. Osamu gets up and goes to the grandma, who is sitting out to watch fireworks even in rain. When the fireworks start, the whole family joins her. After a few days, all of them go to a beach on vacation. There, Osamu spends time with Shota, while Lin has fun with Aki. The grandma talks to Nobuyo about choosing her own family and sees them as a family. The next morning, after coming back from the beach, Lin's tooth falls. She shows it to Shota, and they decide to put it over the roof so she can get stronger teeth. Meanwhile, Aki notices that Grandma is not waking up. Everyone gathers around her, and Osamu tries to call an ambulance, but Nobuyo stops him by telling him that Grandma is already dead. Her death affects Aki the most, as she had been closest to Grandma. On the other hand, Nobuyo and Osamu talk about the funeral, but they decide that they cannot afford it. So, they bury her in the house without letting anyone know. A few days later, Nobuyo and Shota go to the bank to take the money that Grandma left behind. On their way back home, they talk and enjoy their time while drinking some cold drinks. After some days, Shota and Osamu go to a parking area where Osamu asks Shota to break the glass of a car to steal something, but Shota refuses and even leaves. Osamu steals a bag from the car and runs away, and Shota follows him. In the evening, Shota and Lin go to the store that Grandma owns and see that it has been sealed. They figure out that it went bankrupt and then go to a grocery store where Shota asks Lin to stay outside, but notices that Lin is also doing the same. While trying to stop Lin, Shota drops some tins and picks up some fruits before running away. The shopkeeper, along with a helper, follows him. When they reach a bridge, Shota jumps off it, and after watching this, Lin runs back home and informs everyone about it. Later on, Osamu goes to the hospital where the policeman asks him a few questions. Nobuyo also gets there, and Osamu tells her that Shota broke his leg. The officer tries to question them, but they quickly get out of there. They pack their luggage and try to leave home, but at the door, police arrest them. After that, some officials ask Lynn about her family and her beach trip. On the other hand, 2 agents ask Shota about his family and their behavior, telling him that his family got arrested while they were leaving him and running away. An officer tells Aki that Nobuyo murdered her ex-husband with the help of Osamu. In a separate room, Nobuyo tells an officer that they committed that murder in self-defense. Osamu, on the other hand, tells an officer that they saved Lynn instead of kidnapping her, and they're keeping her home just to protect her. Lynn's real mother comes and takes her home. Meanwhile, the officer tells Aki that actually, Grandma had been taking money from her family to keep an eye on Aki, and she wasn't doing it because she cared about her. Aki then tells them about Grandma's dead body. Shota talks to an agent who tells him that now he's going to live with other kids and will attend school. He also tells Shota that Judy decided to go with her mother. On the other hand, Judy's mother is still rough with her. She shouts at her when Judy tries to talk to her or touch her. The police officer who is investigating Nobuyo tells her that Judy decided to go. This makes Nobuyo cry because she never kidnapped her and has been keeping her home just to save the little girl from her cruel mother. After some time, the police arrest Nobuyo and lets Aki and Osamu go. Osamu goes fishing with Shota and then takes him to prison so he can meet Nobuyo. There, she tells Shota about the place and details of the car where they found him, so that if he wants to go back to his real family, he can find them. After that, Shota comes home with Osamu, and they eat noodles and croquet together. Meanwhile, Shota tells him that he wants to spend a night there. At night, Osamu calls him outside, and they make a snowman together. Later on, while laying down, he asks Osamu whether they were leaving him or not. Osamu tells him the truth and apologizes to him, saying that he won't act like Shota's father anymore. The next morning, both of them wait at the bus stand, and Shota leaves for school. At that time, he accepts Osamu as his father. The film ends with Judy singing the poem that Nobuyo taught her.